In this explainer, we're diving into a spiritual path that leads to what's called ultimate liberation, or moksha. We're going to use two key texts as our guides, the Vachanamrut and the Satsang Diksha. Together, they map out a really detailed philosophy for breaking free from the cycle of life and death. So let's get into it. Right from the very beginning, the Vachanamrut sets an incredibly profound tone. It's not presented as just a book. Think about it. It's described as Amrit, divine nectar, but in the form of words spoken by God himself. And the promise here? It's huge. Just like nectar is supposed to grant immortality, these words are said to offer freedom from that endless cycle of birth and death. This is the whole foundation we're going to build on. All right, so here's our game plan for today. First, we'll look at the two texts that are our guide. Then we'll break down the core belief system. After that, we'll explore the inner and outer paths a follower has to walk. And finally, we'll dig into the ultimate goal, liberation itself. So, our whole journey here is guided by two key scriptures. And what's really fascinating is that even though they were written almost 200 years apart, they're designed to work together, to form one single connected path. You've got this really cool dynamic between these two texts. On one hand, there's the Vachanamrut. It's this huge, deep collection of philosophical talks from the 1800s. And on the other hand, you have the Satsang Diksha from 2020, which is basically a modern field guide. It takes all those big ideas and boils them down into 315 short verses for daily life. It's like one is this deep well of wisdom, right? And the other is the bucket you use to draw from it every single day. Okay, so we have our guides. Now let's get to the absolute heart of the philosophy itself. And at its core, you'll find two central figures, God and the Guru. Understanding who they are is really the first major step on this whole path. So first up, you have Purushottam, the supreme being. And what's absolutely key here is that in this philosophy, God isn't some abstract, formless energy out there. No, Purushottam is a divine being who has a form and is the ultimate controller of, well, everything. And then there's the second key figure, the Akshar Brahman Guru. And this is where it gets really interesting because it's a dual concept. Akshar Brahman is the eternal home of God, but it also shows up here on earth as a living guru. This guru is considered the perfect devotee and, crucially, the essential bridge for anyone who wants to reach God. So here's the main takeaway, the crucial point. Both God and the guru who's on earth are seen as totally divine, beyond Maya, that worldly illusion. This verse from the Satsang Diksha really tells followers, hey, don't look at them with a human lens, because their nature is on a whole other level, way beyond any human flaws or limits. So if that's the core belief, how do you actually live it? Well, right away, the focus shifts inward. This path teaches that liberation isn't just about what you believe. It's about this disciplined internal battle to conquer yourself. And the main battlefield for this? It's what's called your swabhav. This is your deep-seated nature, your built-in tendencies, and what the texts call inner enemies, things like lust, anger, ego. Tackling your swabhav isn't just about breaking a few bad habits. It's like rewriting your own core code. But here is the really empowering part. The Vachanamrut doesn't say that the self or the jiva is just some helpless victim of its own nature. Quite the opposite. It says the jiva is extremely powerful. The message is clear. You have the power to change, to take control of your own inner world. And the Vachanamrut even breaks down where these inner struggles actually come from. First, you've got issues that arise from the body itself, and you tackle those by really thinking about the difference between your true self and your physical self. Second, there's the influence of bad company, which you overcome by seeking out a true sant, or a holy person. And third, and this is the big one, you have sanskaras, these super deep-seated impressions from past lives, which are described as the hardest ones to get rid of. And to show you just how high the stakes are, there's this powerful story of Baraji. This was a great spiritual seeker, a guy who'd given up an entire kingdom, but he got attached to a baby deer. And that one seemingly harmless attachment, it was so powerful it determined his next life. He was reborn as a deer. It's a pretty stark warning. For a devotee on this path, any attachment that isn't for God is a huge roadblock. Now, this inner fight against your own nature, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It has to be backed up by an outer path, a really practical, external code of conduct that's designed to shape every part of a devotee's life. And these rules are called niyams. And listen, they aren't just suggestions. They are prescribed vows. They provide the structure, the discipline you need to purify your mind and actually make spiritual progress. The Satsang Diksha is super clear about these niyams, and they cover all the major ethical lines you can't cross. No intoxicating substances, so no alcohol, tobacco, no gambling of any kind, no adultery, and it even says don't use festivals or devotion as an excuse for bad behavior. They create this really strong framework to keep you safe from negative stuff. And get this, the rules aren't just about spiritual stuff. They get super practical. I mean, look at this one about handling money and property. It sounds like something you'd get from a lawyer today. It just goes to show how this philosophy wants to build integrity into everything you do, not just when you're praying. And that practical devotion, it even applies to your money. The Satsang Diksha advises devotees to donate a 10th or a 20th of their income, based on what they can handle, for the service of God. This act of giving is seen as another really important part of that outer path, helping you detach from just accumulating wealth. Okay, so you've dedicated yourself to this inner path, and you're following the outer path. Where does it all lead? What's the ultimate destination? What's the final prize for all this discipline and devotion? The final goal is moksha, liberation. But here's the thing, it's not about just poof, escaping into nothing. In this philosophy, moksha means you get a divine, eternal body, and you get to live in God's home, Akshardham, and just experience his bliss forever. It's the ultimate promotion, not retirement. And the texts are huge on this point about a devotee's conviction. They actually say your final destination depends on it. Think of it like this. If your belief is a bit shaky, you might make it to some lower heavenly realm. But if you have that rock-solid conviction, you're headed straight for God's Akshardham, even if you messed up along the way. In the end, that conviction is the real key. And what does that final state actually look like? Well, liberation isn't passive. The soul doesn't just sit around, floating in bliss. Instead, the liberated soul is actively, lovingly serving God forever. So service isn't just the path to get there, service is the destination. It's the highest form of existence. And all of this brings us to one last thought. I mean, think about it. This path demands this incredible all-in focus, a total re-engineering of your inner and outer life toward one single goal. So it leaves us with a question. In our modern world, which is constantly pulling us in a million different directions, what does this ancient model of focused devotion tell us about our own, very human search for purpose and for meaning?